One of the most misunderstood moves in this generation is silence. We live in a world that tells you to always be talking, always be posting, always be showing off something. People confuse silence with weakness. But let me tell you something, silence is a strategy, not surrender. It's a power move. Because when you're silent, you're not out of the game, you're just watching the board. You're reading the room. You're studying the patterns. You're learning who's who and what's what. See, when you talk too much, you give too much. But when you stay silent, you protect your power. And the crazy part is silence gives you access to information that noise drowns out. While they're talking, you're listening. While they're announcing, you're aligning. While they're fronting, you're forming. And eventually, when it's time to move, your move is so sharp, so precise, so clean they don't even see it coming. Because while they were performing, you were preparing. And that's the difference between those who chase validation and those who create value. Now, I know some of you grew up in environments where you were told, if you don't speak up, you'll be overlooked. And in some situations, that's true, but not when it comes to your destiny, not when it comes to building real wealth, not when it comes to multiplying your value, because destiny doesn't require you to shout, it requires you to shout up. And when you show up in silence, you show up with strength. You show up with clarity. You show up with purpose. You're not doing it for attention, you're doing it for alignment. That's where a lot of people mess up. They want attention more than they want alignment. They want to be seen more than they want to be successful, and that's why they stay stuck. Because they confuse movement with momentum. Just because you're loud doesn't mean you're effective. Just because you're visible doesn't mean you're valuable. Sometimes your most valuable season is the one nobody knows about. Listen, when a seed is planted, it doesn't scream. It doesn't announce, hey wall, I'm about to grow into a tree. No, it goes underground, silent, still, hidden. And it does the most important part of the process, the becoming out of sight. That's what silence allows you to do, to become the version of you that can handle the money. That can handle the platform. That can handle the pressure. That can lead the legacy. You don't build that in the spotlight, you build that in the shadows. See, when you're silent, you learn how to manage your energy. You stop wasting time trying to convince people who were never meant to understand your calling. You stop leaking your vision to people who don't even believe in vision. You stop announcing things that haven't been assigned yet. Because let me tell you something, just because it's on your heart doesn't mean it's for public hearing. Some things gotta stay in the vault until the value is revealed. And when you move like that, when you move in silence, you start to see everything differently. You start catching divine timing. You start discerning who's for you and who's just watching you. You start understanding that the less you say, the more you hear, the more you see, the more you can shift without interference. You're not giving people a chance to sabotage what they don't even know exists. And that's how you win. Quietly, strategically, powerfully. People might look at you like you're being passive. That's fine. Let them talk. Let them assume. Because while they're speculating, you're elevating. You're building businesses. You're flipping assets. You're breaking curses. You're managing money like a millionaire before the bank account even says so. You're moving like someone who's already arrived because in your mind you have. And that's the secret right there. You don't wait for success to act successful. You think it, become it, and walk in it silently. You're not in a rush to prove anything. Why? Because you already know how the story ends. You know it's all falling into place. And when the results show up, they won't need a caption. They won't need a speech. They won't need a viral moment. The fruit will speak for itself. Stay silent and let your results do the talking. You ever notice how the world is always moving? Always talking, always rushing, always reacting. Everybody's got something to say, something to prove, something to post. But the truth is, most of the people making all the noise are just echoing confusion. Because real strategy, real wealth building, real breakthrough, real transformation doesn't happen in the noise. It happens in the stillness. It happens in the quiet. That's where the blueprint shows up. That's where strategy gets downloaded. That's where direction becomes clear. See, when you're always moving, always reacting, always trying to force things, you miss the details. You miss the patterns. You miss the warning signs, and you miss the windows. But when you get still, when you really discipline yourself to be still in your spirit, still in your mind, and still in your decisions, something powerful happens. You start seeing things that other people overlook. You start sensing what's coming before it shows up. You stop living off impulse and start living off insight. Now, stillness ain't just about doing nothing. It's about learning how to stop doing things that don't serve your purpose. It's about cutting the noise so you can hear what really matters. Some of why all are asking God for a strategy, but you're too distracted to hear the answer. You want clarity, but your calendar is too full of chaos. You want peace, but you keep entertaining problems. Stillness doesn't mean inactivity, it means intentionality. It means every move is calculated. Every decision is aligned. Every step is strategic. And it's in that stillness where you start to hear that quiet voice, the one that says, don't spend that. Wait on that. Call them now. Walk away from that deal. Double down on this idea. That voice. That's divine strategy. That's the kind of wisdom you can't buy in a course or get from a coach. That's revelation. And revelation doesn't shout, it whispers. It shows up when you're still enough to receive it. Most people miss that because they equate movement with progress. But let me tell you, motion without direction is just noise. You could be busy all day and still broke. You could be doing 1,000 things and still be behind. But when you get still, you stop being driven by urgency and start being led by purpose. You stop chasing what's popular and start aligning with what's profitable. Not just profitable in money, but profitable in peace, in time, in legacy. And here's what stillness really teaches you. It teaches you patience with power. It shows you how to wait without worrying. It shows you how to trust that just because nothing looks like it's changing doesn't mean it isn't. You start to understand that God is moving even when it looks like nothing's happening. You stop panicking because now you know that everything is shifting even if you can't see it yet. That's when faith really kicks in. Faith ain't just loud prayers and big declarations. Real faith is quiet confidence. It's peace in the pause. It's the ability to wait well. Some of the biggest breakthroughs come not when you force a door open, but when you sit still and let the right door swing wide without you touching the handle. That's when you know it's divine, because your hand didn't have to force it, your stillness attracted it. You were aligned, and what you needed found you. And when that happens, you don't have to stress. You don't have to manipulate. You don't have to chase. You just walk through. And see, when you start mastering stillness, you stop reacting to everything. Not every comment needs a clapback. Not every delay means denial. Not every closed door is a curse. When you're still, you can discern. You stop making emotional decisions and start making generational ones. That's how you break curses. That's how you multiply wealth. That's how you manage the blessings when they come, because you're not being driven by fear or frustration. You're being led by strategy. This is why silence and stillness go hand in hand. You can't hear strategy in chaos. You can't plan in panic. You've got to find that place of quiet, that space where you can think clearly, hear clearly, and move strategically. And that's when everything starts falling into place. Not because you forced it, not because you faked it, but because you aligned yourself with the flow of wisdom. The ones who win are not always the loudest. They're the ones who can sit still long enough to catch the wave and then ride it all the way into legacy. Stay still long enough to hear what others can't. Most people want the spotlight, but they don't want the shadows. They want the applause, but they don't want the silence. They want the breakthrough, but they don't want the building process. Let me tell you something, real discipline is built in the dark. That version of you you're trying to become. That next level you keep praying for. That wealth you say you're ready to manage and multiply. It's not coming because you talk about it. It's coming when you train for it. And the training doesn't happen when people are watching. It happens when nobody sees you. See, this world glorifies the results, but it doesn't show you the reps. It shows you the 6-figure months, but it hides the 6 a.m. mornings. It shows you the viral moments, but not the private struggles. But let me tell you, what makes the difference between those who rise and those who stay stuck isn't talent, it's discipline. It's the small, daily decisions made in silence. It's the habits you create when nobody's clapping. It's the mindset you reinforce when nobody's looking. It's the choices you make when quitting seems easier. That's why I tell people all the time, you don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your habits. Because when life hits you, when adversity knocks, you don't fall back on your dreams, you fall back on your discipline. So the question becomes, what are you rehearsing when no one's around? What are you doing in private that's preparing you for what you're asking for in public? A lot of folks are frustrated not because the door won't open, but because they haven't developed the character to keep the door open once it does. You can get a blessing you're not built to sustain. You can walk into a room your habits can't maintain. So God, in his mercy, delays the thing not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because the worst thing you can do is step into a season you're not ready to steward. Discipline is how you get ready. You want to manage more money, cool. But can you discipline yourself when the money's tight? Can you say no to short-term spending so you can say yes to long-term freedom? You want to lead a team? Great. But can you lead yourself when nobody's checking on you? Can you still show up, still execute, still push when it's just you and your assignment in the dark? Because if you can't do it in private, you won't be able to handle it in public. See, we've gotten used to performance, but we forgot how to practice. We want to be seen, but we don't want to become. And that's why so many people plateau. They're building for applause instead of building for impact. But impact is forged in the furnace of repetition. It's what you do every day when the emotion fades. It's what you stick to after the motivation runs out. That's where greatness is born. And I know it's not glamorous. I know it doesn't get likes. I know nobody's cheering you on when you're doing it alone. But that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. Because when you're building in the dark, You're not doing it for validation, you're doing it for vision. You're not being driven by what people think, you're being led by what you know. You know what you're called to, you know what you're destined for. And that knowing is enough to keep you moving. Eventually the light comes, the stage shows up, the door is open, but when that moment hits, it won't shake you because you've already rehearsed in private what you're about to demonstrate in public. You won't be shocked by the opportunity because you trained like it was already yours. You won't crumble under pressure because pressure is all you've ever known. You built your muscle in silence, and now your moment can't break you. Let me tell you, discipline in the dark always pays off in the light. You don't have to post every move. You don't have to prove every step. Just keep doing the work. Keep showing up. Keep growing when nobody sees. Keep grinding when nobody claps. Because eventually the fruit shows up. And when it does, the same people who question your silence will have no choice but to respect your results. Build in the dark like the light is guaranteed. You don't have to make noise to make moves. You don't have to announce what you're building for it to be built. In fact, the most powerful progress often happens behind closed doors, in silence and secret. Because here's the truth, when you move in silence, you multiply in public. That's the formula. That's how wealth gets built. That's how legacies get forged. Not through constant talking, but through consistent action. Quiet action. Intentional movement. Strategic decisions made without needing validation from anybody else. Some of why all are out here trying to prove you're next when you should be preparing like you're already there. You don't need to show them the seeds. Let them see the fruit when it's ripe. Stop feeling like you owe people an explanation for why you're not out here flexing, posting, broadcasting your every step. Real bosses don't move like that. Real builders don't need applause for the foundation. They just keep laying the bricks until the house stands so strong, nobody can deny it. And when it comes to money, making it, managing it, multiplying it, that principle becomes even more powerful. You don't multiply money by announcing every investment. You don't grow wealth by asking everybody what they think about your next move. You grow wealth by studying in silence, learning in the background, and making smart, strategic plays without a press release. Because when it hits big, and when it shows up in a way that doesn't just bless you, it blesses generations. Now, people will try to pull you out of that quiet season. They'll say, what you been up to? Or you disappeared, or you acting different. Good, you should be acting different. You're in a building season. You're not just working, you're working with wisdom. You're not just grinding, you're growing. And growth doesn't always look glamorous. It doesn't always look loud. Sometimes growth looks like cutting off distractions. Sometimes it looks like saying no to opportunities that don't align. Sometimes it looks like falling back from the spotlight so you can sharpen your skills in the shadows. That's the part people don't understand. Silence is not about being passive, it's about being precise. You're being intentional about your environment. You're being protective of your energy. You're not available for chaos. You're not accessible to drama. You're focused. You're locked in. And when you're locked in, multiplication becomes inevitable. Multiplication isn't magic, it's movement with momentum. And you only gain momentum when you stop interrupting your flow with explanations. You don't owe anyone updates when you're in alignment. You don't need to explain why you're not hanging out, why you're not spending like you used to, why you're not chasing clout. You're not declining, you're developing. You're not lost, you're laser focused. You're not quiet because you're confused, you're quiet because you're being calculated. So think about a lion before it attacks. It doesn't roar first, it crouches low. It gets quiet. It studies. It times the moment perfectly. And when it moves with power. No warning, no announcement, just impact. That's how your next season is going to hit. Because you've been watching, you've been working, you've been preparing, and when it's time to strike, it's going to look like an overnight success, but you and I both know it was silent strategy the whole time. You don't have to convince people who don't believe in vision. You don't need to get loud to prove you're valuable. Value doesn't shout, it shows up and speaks for itself. When you move in silence, your fruit will always make the most noise. Your results will be undeniable. And the best part, you'll have peace while you're producing. You'll have clarity while you're climbing. You'll have power while you're building because you're not caught up in performing, you're rooted in purpose. And let me tell you, nothing multiplies faster than what's built in obedience. When you're obedient to the process, when you honor the season of stillness, the season of strategy, the season of silence, God will put his hand on it. And what should have taken you 10 years happens in 10 months. What looked like a delay becomes divine acceleration. But only if you stay focused and keep moving without the need for noise. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're not doing anything. Let them forget your name. Because when you show up, you won't need to reintroduce yourself. Your fruit will introduce you, your results will remind them. Move in silence, multiply in public. There's something powerful about watching people overlook you. There's something divine about being underestimated. Because when people don't see you coming, they can't block what's about to break loose in your life. You've got to learn how to embrace the season where they sleep on you. Stop getting frustrated because they didn't invite you, they didn't recognize you, they didn't repost you, they didn't applaud you. That's not rejection, that's protection. That's not silence because you're not enough, it's silence because something's about to erupt. The most dangerous person in the room isn't always the loudest, it's the one nobody saw coming. The one they counted out. The one who was sitting in the corner watching, learning, preparing. Because while everybody else was trying to get noticed, you were getting read. And when preparation meets timing, everything changes. You don't need the spotlight to qualify you. You don't need their validation to verify your value. What's on your life is too heavy to depend on someone else's recognition. I'm telling you, you are in a season where people might be overlooking you, but you're not being forgotten. Just because they can't see what you're building doesn't mean it's not being built. Just because your name isn't in the room yet doesn't mean your anointing hasn't already gone ahead of you. Your silence isn't a setback, it's a setup. You're being hidden for a reason. There's something developing in the dark that needs time to mature. Because when it's revealed, it won't be something that fizzles out, it'll be something that stands firm. See, this generation wants instant results, quick claps, viral validation, but the strongest trees grow the slowest. They grow down before they grow up. And that's what you're doing right now, you're building roots. You're not focused on being flashy, you're focused on being foundational. Because flashy fades, but foundation holds. And when the storms come, and they will come, it won't be the loud ones that last, it'll be the rooted ones. Don't rush the revelation, don't panic because they don't see you yet. What they don't see is exactly what's giving you power. You're not underexposed, you're undercover. And sometimes God will keep you covered so that your enemies can't interfere with your development. If they saw what was coming, they'd try to sabotage it. They'd try to distract you. They'd try to pull you out of alignment. But because they overlooked you, they gave you the gift of peace. They gave you space to grow. They gave you time to master the very thing that's about to launch you. And when it hits, oh, it's going to hit different because it's not coming from a place of ego. It's coming from a place of execution. You didn't just dream about it. You worked for it. You sacrificed for it. You stayed committed when nobody was clapping. You stayed focused when it would have been easier to fall off. You didn't fold when it felt like nothing was working. You kept going. You stayed silent. You trusted the process. And that's why when your moment shows up, it's going to be undeniable. You won't have to campaign for it. You won't have to compete for it. You won't have to convince anyone. The results will speak so loud that the same people who overlooked you will be the ones asking how you did it. And you won't even have to say a word. Your work will say it for you. Your fruit will tell the story. Your elevation will be the evidence. See, when you're overlooked, it's easy to let bitterness sneak in. But don't waste your energy trying to prove yourself to people who were never assigned to see you. Some people are blind to your value on purpose. It's not their job to recognize you. It's your job to keep building, keep growing. Keep serving, keep showing up even when it feels invisible. Because being hidden is not being held back, it's being held in place until the right moment. There is power in being the one they didn't expect. Because that's where God gets the glory. That's where the impact hits the hardest. That's where the story flips. One day they'll look back and say, I didn't see that coming. And you'll smile not because you're petty, but because you know it was never about proving them wrong. It was always about becoming the version of you that could walk boldly into purpose, unshaken, unbothered, and unstoppable. Let them overlook you. Just don't overlook yourself. There's a moment when everything starts to shift, not because your situation changes, but because you do. Because after all the silent seasons, all the closed doors, all the discipline, all the building in the dark, there comes a time when you have to walk in what's already yours. You've done the work, you've carried the weight, you've been faithful in the shadows. And now it's time to own your identity and show up like everything is already in place. Not in arrogance, but in alignment. Not to impress, but to impact. You've got to understand something. Elevation isn't just about getting more, it's about becoming more. And if you keep playing small, if you keep shrinking in rooms where you're supposed to lead, if you keep denying what's on your life just because it makes other people uncomfortable, you'll delay your own destiny. Stop talking yourself out of doors you were designed to walk through. Stop hesitating when it's time to make the move. You've prayed, you've planned, you've prepared, now walk like it's already done. This is where confidence matters. I'm not talking about fake performative confidence. I'm talking about kingdom confidence, the kind that's rooted in clarity, the kind that doesn't waver with people's opinions, the kind that says, I may not have the spotlight, but I do have the strategy. Because confidence isn't about volume, it's about value. When you know your value, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop dimming your light. You stop apologizing for what you carry. Some of why all are walking around like you're still waiting for permission. But you don't need permission, you need positioning. The reason you've been through what you've been through wasn't to break you, it was to build you. You survived the fire so you could walk into the future with authority. So stop second guessing it. Own it, wear it, speak from it. Move with it. The favor on your life is not a maybe, it's a mandate. When you show up in silence with strategy and with strength, you become undeniable. You become a force. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to fight for a seat. The table will adjust. The room will shift. Because real authority doesn't announce itself. It just is. It carries weight. It walks in like it belongs there because it does. You've already done the preparation. The groundwork is done. Now the harvest has to respond. But listen, when you get there, don't forget the mindset that got you there. Don't abandon the discipline that built you. You don't drop the habits that sustained you in the dark. You can't walk into overflow with an old mindset. You've got to think like someone who's already there, speak like someone who knows what they carry, operate like someone who's not moved by fear but led by vision, and most importantly, stay humble enough to remember the silence but bold enough to own the spotlight when it finds you. Because yes, everything is falling into place, but it's falling into place because you were willing to stay planted while everyone else was panicking. You were willing to listen while others were shouting. You were willing to serve when no one saw it. You were willing to become the version of you that could carry the next level with integrity. And now you don't have to chase it. Now it's chasing you. Now the blessings are catching up to your obedience. The opportunities are aligning with your preparation. The acceleration is responding to your silence. And when it hits, it's going to feel like it all happened overnight. But you know better. You know it was the process all along. So don't hesitate. Don't back down. Don't walk into the next room like you're still trying to earn it. But walk in like you own it. Not because you're better than anybody else, but because you became the version of yourself that could steward it. You didn't skip steps. You didn't fake fruit. You didn't cheat the grind. You showed up when it was hard. You stayed committed when it was quiet. You trusted the process when it made no sense. And now is the season to stand in it. You don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. Just show up. Let your posture speak. Let your presence speak. Let your fruit speak. Because when it's real, it speaks louder than any announcement ever could. Walk in like it's already done.